freedom. So these are the things that I was talking about earlier. This is the agenda. This is the path that we're going to take today. We went through the welcome. I'm going to thank you all for being here, get to know a little bit about me. I've talked briefly about the DVLab tool. We're going to talk a little bit about ebbs and flows. We're going to play with our creativity, imagination, and innovative thinking, and then we'll close. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah. Sounds great.
All right, excellent. So this is the framework that I was mentioning earlier. This is ours. Imagination breeds creativity. Creativity produces options, and in those options, we find freedom. You might have seen this floating around social media via my friends over at Creativity and Education, Cindy Burnett, Dr. Cindy Burnett, and Ismet Mamnoon. They said that this meme here, or this picture, reminds them of me.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mike, this is what Mike, this is what I was reading off of earlier when I was talking about when you said you were scribbling down some notes. As organizations of service, we want playbooks full of possibilities. Therefore, we need fit, creative, and innovative thinking to call the best plays or ideas to sustain success in our ecosystem. Because of this, we have mixed creative problem solving, innovative thinking, and applied imagination into a mental workout that shifts paradigms and leaves participants free to navigate success strategies that they're charged to create. And again, that end part might be a little bit confusing, but again, charge is something that we cannot see. It's intangible. It's our energy. And you have energy around certain things that you wish to create. Today, we're going to learn how to create some of that latitude to be able to think in those ways deliberately and effectively. So first, we want to draw awareness into focus. That should be pretty hard to read for you. It's meant to be that way because drawing awareness is difficult. In recognizing awareness or acknowledging awareness, this thing is, I came up with this notion just to make it simple for you. The truth is not meant to make you feel good. The truth is not meant to make you feel bad. The truth just is. Truth makes us more aware. And when we are aware, we can change. So let's begin. I grew up in what's considered the worst parts of Buffalo. And no, I didn't create this graphic. It was found in this cheesy documentary left on YouTube. Now, the residents from where I'm from, the Lower East Side, don't feel particularly well about this documentary, but I guess it was informative for the people who like to check into these sorts of things. Now, in growing up on the Lower East Side of Buffalo, like other children at that time, we were all afflicted by certain things that we thought the world was afflicted by, things like the war on drugs, high poverty rate, drug affliction in family, mental health, things like that. And these sorts of things that I grew up in that was considered to be normal shaped my belief system, right? One of those things was masculinity, and everything that I approached deserved to meet my masculinity. Now, this was seasoned and fostered by the environment because fights would break out, violence would happen, and you're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to run. You're not allowed to voice how scared you are or be transparent about that, about your vulnerability. You're not even allowed within the realms of masculinity from this environment to date in the style or fashion that you like to. We call what I like to coin it as, you want to sharpen your manhood as fast as you can on as many women as you can. There's no options to be anything else, LGBTQIA on that spectrum or otherwise, or any other spectrum for that matter. Everything is you're okay and you're all right. Dust yourself off, you'll be good, we'll work it out, right? And these things are largely tied to mechanistically being American, right? Whether it be ADOS, American descendants of slavery, or whether it be the Puritans that landed over here, whomever, it was uniquely American to start a struggle Olympics. I can make it through this, so you should too. So benignly, we start to fashion belief systems and tools to support those belief systems, even if they don't support us. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Emily. So growing up, I had to jettison certain things that didn't work for me. But it was very hard to do that. It was very hard to be able to say, well, okay, so what's really in my way? What's really causing these low frequency moments where I respond to everything like a hammer, right? Like everything is a nail and I'm the hammer and I want to drill everything in. So what's making me respond this way? And I would spend hours trying to figure out, pinpoint just one thing. And I realized that it was amalgam of all sorts of things. And that forced me during my matriculation, getting my master's in creativity, to produce this tool that supported my research. So today with this tool, we're going to capture beliefs, ideologies, customs, rights, religions, cultures, or rules that we all have we have previously or currently subscribed to. Once we have this written down or put into the chat, we want to record this conviction throughout our personal timeline and see if this conviction serves us or hinders us. And that can be you, yourself as an individual, the company or organization that you serve, or just the ecosystem in general, right? So if this view hinders you, I want you to rewrite exactly what you believe to be true. And underneath that, we're going to start to write beliefs that we feel contribute to our optimal output, whether that be, again, with ourselves or with our organizations. So it's important to not overthink this exercise. I'm going to walk you all the way through right now. I know it seems, at a high level, very hard to kind of grasp, but I'll walk you through and I'm sure you'll have a good time. So what is flow? Let's start the conversation. We got a small group. Emily, I can't see the room. Oh yeah, I see it's 8 participants. So the room is still fairly small. So we can open up dialogue about this, or you could feel free to populate the chat. Right now, I'd like for you all to tell me, in your words, what is flow? Or maybe some moments that you've experienced or you feel like you've experienced flow.
When things are just kind of going, quote unquote, right without a lot of need for intervention.
Excellent. Is that Emily?
Yeah, that's me. I can turn on my
video. That's I can't see you because I'm in presentation mode, so I can't see you at
Sure.
all.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Mine is similar. When things proceed without a lot of drama and without a lot of obstacles that they sort of pop up and you think maybe it's going to go wrong and how are you going to work it out, and the answer flows. And so just sort of sitting back a little bit and exercising patience is what gets me to my flow sometimes, but that for me is flow. When things are peaceful and proceed without a lot of drama.
Maybe like harmony is a good word that encompasses.
Yeah, harmonious. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think
jump in.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's in my mind it's when skills or talents that I have master over happen with very little effort or with just sort of seamlessness. So things that I have control or mastery over happen with seamless effort.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And was that Sonia?
Yes, it was. I was coming with a definition similar to Mike's. Well, the first time I heard that term, and I'm coming at it from more of an urban standpoint, is if someone has flow. If I was to say Naj has flow, that means he has swag or he is smooth about himself in the way that he, carries himself. So a little bit of an urban definition when I hear flow.
I like that. Thank you for bringing that cultural perspective. Appreciate that. So we're going to get into what flow actually is. So according to the great creativity researcher and psychology researcher, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, flow is a collection of your best experiences. Now, this is contrasting to creativity because creativity is agreed to be a state of being, right? So you could actually go and say, be creativity, right? That's your best philosophy for being creativity. But flow is totally different. Flow is a collection of that microflow. It's a dynamic experience. And like, as you all were mentioning, it's a part of those high frequency moments where it could be something as simple as hugging a loved one, hugging your child, or coming up with a great idea, or taking a walk, riding a bike, sharing a great conversation, All of those things seem like they speed time up because you're experiencing flow. So those things also contribute to a continuum of microflow. So if you present and you can figure out those things that's with throughout your day that bring you that high, those high vibration moments, that joy, peace, and love. If you can discern what those things are, then you can string those things together and everything will be a seamless event of flow. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Any questions on that?
Sorry, you can't see us nodding.
Makes sense.
Okay, great.
I do want to add, you said that name really well. That name that's a mouthful of a name to say that.
Yeah. Well, we had to basically know that coming out of the department. You know what I mean? So ebb, on the other hand, what are some ebb moments that you all experience? And is it more frequent than flow, or is it about the same?
Changes.
They
Some-
stand out more, I'd say.
Right, because they hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you ever heard the parable about the two sisters, one is the ugly truth and the other is the beautiful lie. And the ugly truth is always asking her sister, why do you always get the dates?
I heard of that, but not that. I need to go read it in more detail.
Anybody else about that?
Yeah, there are certainly moments that make you appreciate flow.
Most
Right.
definitely.
And if you get off of your self-care or whatever your whatever your personal formula to find flow is, if you get off of it, an ebb can often snap you back.
Okay.
Can
Thank
be a
you.
reminder.
Anybody else?
I mean, when I think about flow, just kind of going back to that, I was kind of thinking about it in a like from a sense of direction. I picture something linear, and then here, what's an ebb? I'm thinking more about a movement, and that's not necessarily linear, right? It can stop, it can go. Whereas flow is really just you hit the button, and then it's always continuous and it's linear.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
So then ebb could be a tributary or a turn or a obstacle that the flow flows over. If it's linear, it can still go up and down, right?
Exactly. And actually, I want to add to what Jeraria said. Flow, if you go and stand at any pier, which direction do water flow? All directions. Just depends, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the tide, maybe with the lake, where I just found out that lakes are just like big puddles. And when the wind blows, it might blow more water to one side. So it appears that a lake has a tide, right, Kat?
It can appear that a lake has a tide. Yes, sir.
So ebbs, on the other hand, are our least productive moments on task. Ebbs are our low frequency moments. Ebbs are where we become distracted and focused during an activity, a state of boring and inconsequential procrastination. Ebb is when we're operating on lack and limiting beliefs. It's also an inability to course correct. Has anybody ever felt like that? I'm stuck in the rut. I'm stuck in a stupor. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You can't have the flow without the ebb, right? There's sort of you can't have the trough without the wave.
That's right. That's right. So a cheat code early before we even really get started into today's work is to embrace your journey. That's the full way of getting into flow, right? Like just the practice of it. Of course, you want to string together your microflow continuum, but simply embracing the fact that we've all seen the memes of what success really looks like. It looks familiar to this, right? So it's the same kind of thing. I'm going to embrace the fact that I'm going to have all these squiggly lines, twists, turns, ups and downs in my life or in my journey. They're not happening to me explicitly. They're happening. Copy that?
Copy that.
So another cheat for this is, and this is my favorite one, is providence. And we all as high performers are operating with this, but not deliberately. Today, I hope that you all will. Providence simply, if you go to any dictionary, states it's preparation for future eventualities. The second definition is always or often tapping into a higher or highest sense or best self, right? So if we are practicing at our highest and best self on a regular basis, and it's become the habit that we have, won't it seem like we're always prepared for future eventualities?
Mhm.
I'll break that down even further for you. Providence is synonymous to economy and thrift. I'll leave you with that. So today's work is about challenging assumptions. We all have them. We all look at a stimulus and we all produce whatever thread of thought that's charged by an heuristic that may not have anything to do with what we're seeing, because there's always more going on than what we see. So another tool in creativity is called a warm-up. And this tool is used a lot like when you go to the gym. When we go to the gym, even though we may want to, we're not going to go to the gym and just start lifting 225 pounds off the rack. We're going to warm up first. So that same way we warm up our body, we want to warm up our thinking before we start to deliberately engage on problem solving or divergent thinking. It's important to give yourself the freedom to diverge healthily. We believe that the great ideas or the third or the goal comes out after the third ideas. And what that means is in creativity, we're always pushing for our participants to come up with 30 or more ideas. Because in that first third is where we find that you're going to produce those ideas that quickly come to mind. They may be silly, they may be things you've already tried, so on and so forth. That second third, we start to see ideas take a little bit of sophistication. However, those are the things that are still dancing at the tip of your tongue. That third, 21 through 30, is where we start to see that novel, original, more creative ideas start to emerge. So it's important to give yourself the latitude, there's that word again, to diverge healthily. We want to give ourselves the space to be able to make mistakes and think with breadth and depth. So you might be asking yourself, okay, Najja, what is divergent thinking? Divergent thinking is the seed of all creative thinking. It supports our ability to, at first, defer judgment, which is critical. That's within our control, to defer judgment and just say, well, I'm curious. What is this that I'm looking at? It supports our natural ability to encourage wild and unusual ideas. Strive for quantity instead of quality. Keep open and build on other ideas. And for the introverts like myself, allow that wild card for incubation. So today's warm-up, we're going to start to explore social contracts and societal beliefs. We all have them. And I'll give a short tee up. When I first started out in the program in creativity, I quickly noticed that the room didn't look like me. And coming from the Lower East Side, where I never really encountered white folks besides something negative, right? Like getting beat up by the police, or when my neighbor struck my brother in the side with the fire poker for the fireplace. And we called the police and they was like, oh, she's an older woman, let her, she's going to die soon anyway, right? Instead of saying pressing charges.
Sorry.
So when I got into the program, amidst of going to the military and having different bouts over race and things like that, I immediately wanted to believe, especially with these people being all older than me, that they really wouldn't want to help me, or they really wouldn't want to connect with me on a person-to-person level. But to my chagrin, I found the complete opposite. In fact, I found Mike Fox, who opened up the graduate house for me so that I was able to leave the streets and have somewhere safe to lay my head, that I wouldn't have to live in contrition about leaving my 1,100 square foot loft and my son's bedroom and all these other things for one bedroom in a graduate house. He says, I've been through this before and I had people there for me. I took it even a step further with Mike Fox and said, you keep being nice to me. He would let me use his vehicle to go pick my son up because I'm virtually homeless. So I had to ask him, I kept asking him, I'm like, yo, why you keep doing this for me, my man? I'm not gay. And, he finally sat me down and was like, yo, I've been through this. I've slept in my car before after I've gotten a master's degree in creativity. And it was a family that took me in. They didn't put an expiration date on when I had to be out. They let me stay to get on my feet. Because when a person knows that they can make mistakes, they do better. However, when a person feels like they can't make mistakes, they do worse. So that was one person. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe we hit it off. I was a late registrar and I came late for my weekend classes. So I missed Saturday and I came late on Sunday because I was a new parent at the same time. And I had to swap my son off to my son's mom. So Dr. Roger Firestein was like, let me talk to you in the hallway for a minute. Go in the hallway. He was like, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen somebody come a day late and $1 short and be successful in this course. I let him know everything that I had been going through, that I was a late registrar and I'm a co-parenter, so I had to swap my son out. If you give me a shot, I promise I won't let you down. So for the rest of the class, I'm earnestly throwing up my hand and trying to answer all questions, even if I don't quite understand. That opened the gates to a wonderful friendship and an apprenticeship that the department hadn't even seen before. But I initially thought that he wouldn't be open to me. Later on in the class was like, you could stay. And from that, you could stay, sprouted all the things I just mentioned. And that happened with more and more people like Dr. Cindy Burnett, as I mentioned, and her husband, Andy Burnett, who I work with regularly with NASA and the NSF, Dr. Gerard Puccio. And so the list continues. And all of these people don't look like me. However, if I met them with the belief system that I had growing up, that these people aren't for me, they won't help me, we'll never be able to see eye to eye, then you probably wouldn't see me here doing what I'm doing today. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
Great.
Mhm.
So for question number one, before we break into some thought, and whether you stay right at your station, you can turn your screen off if you like to. But I want you to think deeply about these two questions that we're going to pseudo break out for. We're over time. Is that okay? Imagine those who have to leave, they're going to leave.
We're good. Yeah, I think we were going, it's at least slated till 3:30, at least 1
Okay,
hour.
great. Excellent.
I have time.
Me too.
So I just wanted to make sure that we were still good on time. I'm looking at the time I was in the room and it's 48 minutes. All right. So again, back to the questions. I want you to think deeply about this. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes, like maybe about 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes to sit at your station, maybe even write some things out there to tease out the thoughts, incubate a little bit, be curious, right? On what's something that you once believed in, right? Capture that in any way that you need to right now before I move on to the next slide. Write it down, take a picture, whatever you might need to do. The next question is, what are some beliefs that might be limiting me? And I want you to think deeply again, be curious, because that's where the gold is. Go back in time and see who said that thing to you first. Everybody got those two things or three?
No, hold on.
I'll go back so you can capture the first one.
Oh, I got that one. Sorry.
Okay.
This was a smart. Okay. What was the next one? What are some beliefs that might be limiting me?
Are these beliefs that should be related to the first thing we used to think, or just totally separate, or doesn't, or either way?
Yes, these are totally related to challenging those those social constructs and societal beliefs that we benignly adhere to or agree to without ever really analyzing them, evaluating them. And then even once we have them, we develop belief systems and tools to support that belief system that we don't want to be wrong about. So yes, of course, Emily, thank you for that clarifying question.
Thank you.
Does everybody have the questions down? I'm going to put 4 minutes on the clock.
I have them down.
Oh, just the questions, not the answers?
I'm
I have. Okay.
going to put 4 minutes on the clock. We'll reconvene then.
I'll play some music in the interim.
That would be nice. Thank you.
I don't know how well you're gonna be able to hear it. Can you hear it?
No, not really.
Not really.
I could try to pipe in some music if you like.
Yeah, I might be able to change the audio settings.
Oh, yeah, Naj, what you got for us?
You hear that waving?
There's so many times I've tried, but you don't listen to what I say. You know your time's gonna come along, gonna go ahead and have my way. You thought about what you've done, mama, I need a change of scene. That magic way you handle me, don't you wanna know where I have been? Staying out late at night, around 4 when I get in. But inside my fleeting heart is where the pain begins, right?
Just over a minute left.
Gotcha.
Every little time you come down here, you expect a little more. I can see past your pretty face, I can't see my way through that door. It's all in lies to make no deal, along with everything else you say. You know your time's gonna come along, gonna go in and have my way, alright?
And time. Thank you so much, Emily.
Makes it more fun.
Yeah, the music made it go by much faster. Okay, so if you feel comfortable, I'd like to take some time to debrief now. If you feel comfortable sharing out in the room, in the plenary, do so. If you rather share in chat, please do so.
Do you want us to share the belief first? Or what do you want us to share first?
Wherever you'd like to start.
So I mean, I guess I'll go first. So you know, this is something I'm still, I guess, sort of dealing with. Is the belief that that I need to be the smartest in order to be successful,
Mm.
and this always led back to this sort of feeling inside my head of, or hearing from others that I'm not as smart as I think I am, or
Mm.
that I'm not quite prepared, or as smart as I believe that I show people I am, which is led to that process. When if I think about that, which is kind of getting a little weird, but like that was a reflective piece of my my mother constantly sort of reflecting that back to me, saying that I'm not as smart as I think I am. And then the Boston teachers and that consistent issue of like, who do you think you are? You're not that smart. Or if you were that smart, you wouldn't be doing these stupid things. Those kind of
Right.
comments. So
I've heard
That's
that before too, Mike. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that transparency.
now I'm sweating a little bit over here. That was that's my thing
Yeah,
for the
but
day.
Heavy lifting. It's heavy lifting.
But thank you, Mike. I identify with that 100%. Wasn't my mom, it was my dad who, you know, but yeah, that same sort of, and I think there's societal parts of that too, right? Our competitive school system and test taking and constant measuring and the way that we structure our academia and childhood learning in this country as well sets us up
Yeah,
for that.
and it'll be. I think about it as like when I had bosses when I was younger. It was also them trying to level set me and put me into a place,
Mm.
which is that's why I'm an entrepreneur now.
I can agree with that, Mike. I can agree with that. Most definitely. Anybody else? Before we move further?
Mine, I think, is actually, it's almost like a little embarrassing now because of what I do. But I remember when I first started working, into the career world from college and in HR, the human resources people field, and first was introduced to any speakers or topics on, sorry, my cat's here, on engagement, like employee engagement or mindfulness, or, kind of the soft, like, what people would call sometimes fluffy side of, this aspect of whether it's business or life or HR or people. I used to think it was all just bullcrap and fluffy. And people that didn't really know much about anything, just, kind of spouting off, and it had no tangible value. And obviously over time, I've come to find that that's absolutely not true. But that was definitely something. And now I do yoga and I, meditate and and do acupuncture, all these things that I thought were for really out of touch people.
That is
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you. And that actually contributes to where we're going next. Before we get there, though, does anybody else want to share?
Yeah, for me, it's all of those as well, right? We wrote 4, but one that I had that was a little different was just the American Story, the Disney sanitized version of our country that our government sells was a belief that and continues to limit me every day as well.
You talking about the nuclear family, the home in the suburbs, the white picket fence, 2.5 kids, and the car in the driveway.
That certainly, but also the racism baked into the American Story that we don't ever talk about, right? The pretty story of the 2.4 kids and the picket fence and that's for everybody and equality and
The wrong side of the track.
the forgotten history of the American Story.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in history and wanted since college to learn the history of the world and looked in very traditional sources. And so something I once believed in that no longer do, that changes the way I interact with the world and some of the other stuff, being the smartest and learning to meditate and all of those other things have flowed into learning a different, and maybe it is about being the smartest person in the room, right? Like I like to believe that what I know and understand our history to be right. And so changing how I view what the government says to me and what our Americanism stands for.
Wow. Very powerful. Thank you, Kat.
I have one, if I may, Naj. I know you're pressed for time.
Please do.
So from the millennial perspective, I will say a self-limiting belief would be age. So oftentimes when we're in these rooms, we'll get, what makes you qualified? What you know about fill in the blank. And so, when we're told, oh, you can inherit the problems of tomorrow, it would be nice if we were welcome in certain rooms where these problems are being discussed currently.
Wow. That's major, right?
Since you're going to have the longest tomorrows.
Wow. We're
Come
inheriting.
on, Kat. Speak on it.
Wow. That's heavy. That's heavy. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Okay, let's move in. So you've already played, you all just played with warming up and diverging healthily. Give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome. But now the real game time begins. This is the even harder stretch, Mike. So you expect to sweat a little bit more and in all the crevices and nether space. So this time it's only one question, right? But it's based on the work that we've already done. So based on the narratives that we just come up with, that we just unearthed, Everything that we just talked about. Why did we believe in those scenarios? A. And then B, now that you have a choice, because you know that this thing is without you, it's not within you, how do you choose to respond now? Or if you have to give a hypothetical, how might you choose given the chance to respond? Everybody got that? I'll give you an example. We can go back to masculinity at the very beginning, right? And how that really caused so many ebbs in my life. But upon the awareness of such, I could still respond the same way I've been responding and getting the same results. But Albert Einstein says what?
That's the
Doing
definition of insanity.
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is insane. So instead, I started to be introspective. Well, this version of masculinity is without me. What's within me is, again, those high vibrations of love, peace, and joy. That goes into a deeper context of I need to forgive myself and all these other things that I won't bore you with right now. However, those things were the product of my choice. Do you understand that?
What was,
Can you
Yeah.
clarify a bit?
Sure. Where would you need me to clarify? Where do you need me to clarify?
Where you
What
said
was-
it was your choice.
Right.
what did you break to realize you had a choice, right? Like to break away from the narrative.
That paradigm of masculinity, you mean, or just the paradigms that we all just unearthed not too long ago?
What, one of the things I've always, like, self-limiting beliefs or beliefs that we hold that we don't realize are holding us back. Most of us, I think that's unconscious, like where the belief came from and why we believe it so strongly, right? So sometimes something has to happen to make us even question, that the sky is blue and grass is green, and right, like some beliefs are so deeply
something that catalyzes this.
so unconsciously held. How do you bring that to the conscious forefront, right? Like,
Well, so for me, I can't exactly say what will definitively work for you, but there's myriad tools that we may employ. The one I'm choosing for this exercise is introspection, right? Because consciousness takes time, like you mentioned. Consciousness takes a little bit of time to process, whereas subconscious is happening all the time, free firing towards our habited belief, wherever we were already going. Consciousness takes time and reflection to say, okay, well, what's actually in here? What's going on here? And then dutifully and deliberately starting to build a new habit where we had this one habit that wasn't really serving us. We didn't really pay too much attention to it because benignly it's just there, right? It's just there. Like you was mentioning the things about the American dream. They're just there. That's just how we operate, right? You don't really give too much thought to them. It's just the motion that everybody else is going to. But now that we have the latitude to really diverge upon those things healthily, remember those 30 ideas, right? We're stretching. What's your choice now? And with that choice, how might you respond? Is that clear?
yes, thanks. For me, I can't speak for you, sorry.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Oh, it's wonderful.
So I'm going to give you some time yet again. I'm going to put some time back on the clock one more time because I really want you to be curious and stay within this. And again, you get to choose. Okay? There's no right or wrong. Starting now. And Emily, if you want me to, I'll pipe in music. So not
Sure.
Please.
Your background noise filter must be on too high, Naja, because we can't hear your music. I had to like turn the filter off.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No, just when you talk, actually, then it comes in.
Ah, sorry about that.
It sounds good though. I like it.
There's a background noise filter?
Yeah, so there's that like automatic low faint. So like if there's a, yeah, Zoom closes it out. So if you fart too loud, no one can hear it. That's the trick on Zoom.
There's a lot of functionality I know.
It won't let me get to any of my meeting settings right here.
We
You
can
have
hear
to
it
go-
more now.
Yeah, you probably have to go through like your audio.
I'll pipe it in.
It's fine.
I thought I might be able to get away with it this way.
Seems better now. Is this technically Christmas music?
I guess so. I guess you can. If my favorite things definitely fits Christmas.
Yeah, it's not explicitly, but yeah, it's common. So
Yeah.
I guess it's November.
I thought it was for thunderstorms.
Understood.
Well, my favorite things has always come from The Sound of Music for me. So that's not really tied to any.
Yeah,
like,
they sing it during the thunderstorm to distract themselves.
Oh yeah. John Coltrane's versions just happen to be my favorite.
Yeah, this is great. I'm a big fan of jazz.
I gotta go with not Christmas though. Not Christmas.
Right.
Solidly not Christmas.
I think you're right. It just gets put in at Christmas time, but it's not itself Christmas. Yeah.
Right.
Isn't it in that like Charlie Brown Christmas special that song is? I think that's the affiliation, I think.
Oh, okay. That's how it got mixed in.
I think in my mind it's somewhere in there.
Or the
So it's,
soundtrack samples from it somewhere.
Yeah. The association.
Whoops.
Yeah, we lost your screen share, Naja.
I don't know what happened. I tried to stop sharing for the music, and maybe I should have just let you do it, Emily.
All right.
Double click to enter.
There we go.
There we go.
And we're back. So let's open the floor for a nice debrief. What's some of the ideas that we came up with?
So that's sort of why I believe this stuff. Part of it I wrote down was just like environmental and sort of just the environment that I was in, right? I wasn't aware enough at that time where I was to recognize that just wasn't how things were or okay. I wrote down, part of it also was just like my age and where I was at my points to kind of say, I did believe and want to kind of believe that, intelligence and smartness matters. That's part of acculturation, so those sort of things. Then the idea on sort of like, how do I respond now? I was thinking about how I shifted that, and part of it was receiving feedback from clients and others, and their feedback was, it was all written, right? It was sort of like sometimes other folks felt that I was trying too hard, and I wasn't allowing them to shine enough. And I realized that's not being helpful to where I want to go as a person. And so I
Mm.
thoughtfully said, how do I shift it from me not being smart enough to saying, y'all are really, really smart. Like, how do we highlight us in the process? And that took environmental change. It took feedback. It took me leaving places to figure things out. So that's kind of what I thought about. When I scroll down here.
Great, thank you. And what's your response to that?
To what?
To
Oh.
how that stimulus showed up? I missed.
So my response is making a daily effort or practice to highlight other people around me in their efforts.
I'd say you do well with that, Mike.
Najja, it is 3 years of practice, my friend. So it's there's ebbs and flows.
But that's the whole point I'm making with this, right? You supplanted this habit that didn't work for you for a habit that does work for you, and 3 years later, it's a sustaining success.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Nothing radically different from what Mike said. I think a lot of the scenarios I believed, I was a good girl who believed what she was taught at home and in my family and in school and in the social structures that I chose to be in. Very WASPy, very East Coast, right? I love to say that Protestants work hard and play never. So being raised like that. And for me, my first choice I made upon thinking there has to be a better way to live was to travel and to go other places and see is the East Coast and the you have to be smart and you have to pass tests and you have to have the right answer all the time.
Be first, right.
Was going and it can't be true that there's only one right way to do everything. So went in search of that and a different way to think about life. And so travel helped. And then much like Mike, I quickly learned that trying to displace an old habit, you really needed a new habit to replace it with. Otherwise it's very easy to fall back in. So
you move all the furniture out the house. Pretty soon you'll realize you need somewhere to sit. So you'll go back wherever you stored that furniture and move it back in.
Yep. Let's get a new chair.
You got to go get a new one right away. So
I was going to chime in really quick, Naj. I promise.
Go ahead.
I was going to say my answer is a little bit different from Mike and Kat because I didn't believe it, that I wasn't qualified. But once you get told something enough times, you kind of throw your hands in the air and say, you know what, if I'm going to get treated like this, I might as well. So if I was told I wasn't qualified, I just got tired of arguing because I still hear it to this day. So less so a belief, but more so a lack of energy to have to constantly prove myself over and over again.
I like how you said that because that's exactly what I'm talking about at the very beginning. And when I'm saying the strategies that you're charged to create, you have the space to unload all of that energy versus what people want from you, what they're willing to tolerate.
Yeah, I like this a lot because it's it's a theme that I think has been coming up a lot just with kind of this narrative or this theme of I don't know, of thinking or, this phenomena has been more out there than ever. And I think I like the point that we all have a choice to respond. And I think like for me with my belief, I just didn't respond for a long time. I just kind of was complacent and let myself believe that. And until like you start, I think, getting nudged or bombarded with information enough over time to start, I think it just slowly creeps in, right? Versus it being like a hard and fast like decision or something that hits you in the face, at least for me. I guess it depends on the situation, but
I want to reinforce Kat's thing too. Kat, I wrote down too when you were talking earlier about like, I don't know what changes it. And I wrote down, like you said, I think like I traveled a whole bunch, like breaking that circle of who your group around you is.
Right.
I mean, like I was talking to two friends of mine who still live where we grew up, which is, I'm not from Buffalo. I was on the phone with them and they're in their parents' house in the same location. Their kids go to the same school. And it's like we were back in high school again. And suddenly I was like, but then I snapped back that dramaturgical sort of role shifting of like, once you travel and move and invite different folks into your circle,
And
You
see
re-
different things.
you realize that like it's not all this. And that's a really
Yeah.
simple thing to say, but like it's why I encourage all undergrads I meet, get out of your parents' house, move around a whole bunch, go somewhere where you know nobody at all, and start all over again from zero. We have no job, no
Yeah.
friends, no connections. Drop it and figure it out, and you'll realize quickly like that what your beliefs are probably aren't that right in the first place.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
like the idea that regardless if like a stereotype or something, you know, a way of thinking is being applied to you or you're applying it to someone else, like ultimately, you know, each person has the ability to like determine whether that sticks or not or becomes truth or not, right?
Yes.
In some way, like,
Mhm.
I think that's super important more than ever to be aware of. So that's just my 2 cents.
I like that. Thank you. The conversation started to get really robust, and I want to add something like to especially to the women here, right? Because I just did the women's leadership summit. Is
Oh yeah.
for the past 3,500 years we've been playing this game in of Western civilization, and within that game, a woman has always been something less than citizen, right? And maybe for the past 100 years or so, we've been looking at what it means for a woman to exact what freedom looks like for her on an individual level, and then be accepted by other women within that level, because the biggest oppressors over time has become yourselves, right? With a bra. If you're not wearing a bra, why does she, oh my God, why does she wear a bra? With high heel shoes, or she could have picked a better pair of shoes, even though those shoes keep women from running away, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of those, or she could have put makeup on, or she could have did it. That's called epistemic violence, right? And we do that to one another, but we can choose to respond that way simply by deferring judgment, hopping right in to divergent thinking deliberately, creative thinking deliberately, encouraging those wild and unusual ideas, striving for quantity, keeping open and building on other ideas, and also allowing yourself to incubate. Now, you might be saying that, well, it's difficult for me to just stay in divergent thinking. And that's natural because of what Kat was saying earlier with the American education system and how it was set up. It was set up to make critical thinkers out of you because we wanted better workers at the time. So we needed to produce these restraining thought patterns that limited our actions in order to behave the way that we needed to behave on an assembly line or during the Industrial Revolution or whenever, when we were trying to build the space that we're in now. However, in creative problem solving, there's this dynamic balance to thinking, which is divergent thinking and convergent thinking. You could think of these two as the gas pedal if you drive and the brake. You can't hit both at the same time because you go nowhere fast, right? You spin your tires, you're going to spend more money because you probably crack your transmission. You're going to need new tires. You might need ball joints and so on and so forth, right? But instead, allow your space to hit the gas. Go to places where you can just hit the gas and go, where all alternative beliefs are possible. Okay? How to think versus what to think. And you can think the phenomena called the fourth grade slump for this. In the 70s, the researchers wanted to understand imaginative genius and where did it start to wane for individuals. So they started measuring little kids all the way up to age 4. And they noticed that even up at age 4 or 5, these little kids would have 100% imaginative genius. So they turned it into a longitudinal study and said, well, where does it actually fall off at? So every year they would test, where is the imaginative genius landing at now? So all the way up until age 9 is where we started to see a 50% drop in imaginative genius. And consecutively moving forward, every 5 years, it would drop drastically until a person was in their early 30s and their imaginative genius was almost non-existent.
Wow.
That's a real thing. The research is very old. So just think about that. Consider that. How much your imaginative genius has been taken away from you, and how people kind of implore that you don't be imaginative, and they think of it as child's play, right? Versus being able to apply this to solve the most complex of problems. So now we come full circle. And remember, this slide should mean that much more now with drawing things into awareness. The truth ain't meant to make you feel good, and it ain't meant to make you feel bad. It just is. However, the truth makes us more aware, and when we're aware, we can change. So one thing moving forward before we leave, I want to have a call to action is, what are the 1 or 2 pieces of data that you connected with during this workshop, this seminar? And again, allow yourself to be curious, because curiosity is one of the most seductive things that we have as human beings. It takes over. So allow that curiosity to take over, and then think about the questions that come up from that data that you connect with. And then how might we capture those questions if we look into solve them?
I think for me, a good takeaway, a big takeaway, and it's something that has been a theme in my life that I've been more aware of for the past, especially 8 months though, is just not being reactive, and that fact that we do have a choice in how we respond to either, a threat we perceive, and how we respond to the person or thing that is threatening us, or, how we, may respond personally to a threat, to us. So sorry, I'm not being very articulate with my cat interrupting me.
That's
But
fine. That's
I
fine.
think I think that's a good point in like tying it into the kind of the theme of the startup week, and what entrepreneurs and leaders might be able to take away into their organizations of even in the other sessions this week on recruiting and selection or leadership or being strategic about talent, a lot of it is about approaching talent or people in your organization with more empathy and curiosity, right? And considering maybe different people to hire for positions that you didn't before, because you might have been following this formula that isn't relevant anymore, right? Or when someone isn't performing, considering maybe they're just not a great fit for that job, or maybe you're not doing things to support them. So I think not reacting in those situations is a good takeaway in general.
That's awesome.
Well,
so
and
much.
Em, if I can add to that, straight up questioning where did the hiring and recruiting system that we all take as this is the way it is come from, right? So for me, the data, my biggest piece of like continuing to examine the underpinnings and epistemic, right? Like what is the birth of the knowledge? So the knowledge that we think we have, and we think this is the way it is, or how it was and always shall be. Where did that come from, right? And so continuing to always ask why do I think that? Why do I assume that? Why?
Right. Let that curiosity take completely over.
Yeah.
I guess
Anyone
I'll
else?
jump in and yeah, I'll add, I really resonated with the story you shared, Naj, about your professor turned mentor. And I definitely had that, barrier or wall up where anytime somebody offered to help me, my first instinct was this has to be a quid pro quo. Some people will actually just help you because they see a spark in you and they want to help develop that. So I really resonated with that part.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. As a woman, that's really hard professionally, I feel like. Get out of
Is
here.
is it transactional or is it trust relationship? Yeah.
Interesting.
I like to say transactional or transformational.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that brings us to the close. Are there any questions about anything that we've done? Any clarifying things? Anything you want to know more of? Awesome. So if you like, I can make the slides available to you through WeTransfer or something like that. And once I do, this is a hyperlink right here. I'd like for you to be able to download and have this tool for yourself, but also to be able to give us feedback, because I believe in Ubuntu philosophy. I am because we are. So the more that you pour into us, the better off we'll be able to facilitate this message. And if there's nothing further, thank you for sharing your afternoon with me and staying over for those who could. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you next time. Also, there's a glossary here for a lot of those terms that I really glossed over pretty quickly. But if you want them again, I'll make those available to you.
Thank you so much, Naja, and it was awesome, and it is recorded, so at least you know the part from when I got on. So we will be sharing out the recording of this presentation as well as the other ones this week, and I think it'll be a great, nice sequence of a library. But my sincerest apologies for being on late and delaying anything, but great content, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here, and you and Kat extended the invitation for me to be here. I'm grateful to be here. And I see that I have some direct messages, especially from Juaria, where I didn't see it. And she was like, what about me? I didn't get to share what I was, to share out what I was hoping to get out. Sonia, please give her my sincerest apologies. Ask for the deepest forgiveness for me because I wasn't able to see the chat.
No problem. We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Naja.
everybody.
This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
was so much fun. Hopefully we get to play again in the future.
Yes.
Bye.
Monday night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.